Along with covering your standard mythological creatures, we should also talk about some of the beings that created these creatures, or the beings that some of these creatures serve. The Celtic gods. So let's start with one of the more mysterious and powerful ones. Cernunnos. But before we get started, this video was brought to you by Manscaped.com, the global brand for men's grooming and hygiene products. Manscaped offers the best tools and liquid formulations to solve the big three major issues that cause you to stink. Your body, your arse, and your balls. You can also get rid of those annoying nose hairs that you are in denial about by using the Manscaped Weed Whacker. I know that most of us here are all big, manly, hairy men that don't often think about shaving, but there is nothing wrong with keeping everything clean and neat, especially down below. Plus, you owe it to yourself to set yourself up for success by upping your shower game, especially in this weather. Also, there is no need to worry about sharp scissors or anything else that will make you nervous. The Manscaped Body Wash 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner duo has helped me cut my shower time in half, which is fortunate because in this heat wave, I'm having about 5 showers a day. I need help. They are also introducing the Platinum Package 4.0. Manscaped products are all made with all natural hydrating ingredients, and these products are all paraben-free, cruelty-free, dye-free, and vegan. And for a limited time, you will get all of this plus 2 free gifts, the Shed travel bag and the Manscaped anti-chafing boxer briefs, which are also very good for this weather. So go to manscaped.com today to get 20% off, including free international shipping when you use my promo code Dankula at the checkout. Manscaped, always use the right tools for the job. One thing that is very important to point out with the Celtic gods is the Celtic pantheon is very large and it differs very widely depending on which period of history you're in and also which geographic area. Some gods were recognised in some areas but not others. Worship of some gods faded away, but then in some cases it came back. It's all very, very messy, which is going to make these videos on the Celtic gods very hard to research, especially since a lot of the knowledge about them has either been completely lost or because different Celtic tribes had completely different takes and descriptions of the same god. So, if some of the knowledge seems to be mixed up, contradictory, or lacking, that's because it is. Cernunnos, also known as the Horned God, is one of the many powerful deities in Celtic folklore. In Celtic and neo-pagan religion, he is often worshipped as the Lord of Wild Things or the Green Man of the Woods. And he is also worshipped by some Wiccans. He was worshipped primarily in Britain, although there are traces of his worshippers in Ireland and also in Europe. Cernunnos is a symbol of male fertility and male animals. He is the god of lust, protector of the forest, and master of the hunt, including the wild hunt. Yes, the same one that's referenced in The Witcher. Many pagan traditions honour Cernunnos as an embodiment of masculine energy, fertility, and power. Cernunnos has no real interest in the daily lives of mortals, but he is usually seen sitting cross-legged, watching people pass by. He remains a very mysterious deity, as much of his original mythos has been completely lost to history. Though Cernunnos himself appeared primarily in ancient Gaul, similarities have been found all over the world, but most importantly in the Celtic religions. As always with mythological creatures and deities, he is depicted in many different ways, though a common depiction is that he is half animal and half human, like a faun. He has the face of a human man, and he wears great stag antlers on his head. He is sometimes accompanied by other animals like a stag, a bull, a ram, and a horned serpent. He owns a torque which was either worn around his neck or in his hand. A torque is a sacred neck ornament of Celtic gods and heroes that was often associated with having high status. This also meant that some people saw him as a god of wealth, since he was very often depicted surrounded by resources, sacks of gold, and other riches. Some of the less popular depictions of Cernunnos is that he has the appearance of a normal man covered in leaves, but he had the head of an animal, usually a large stag, and other times he was depicted as a walking tree, like the Ents from Lord of the Rings. The earliest known depictions of Cernunnos were found at Val Camonica in northern Italy, which was under Celtic occupation from about 400 BCE. He is also believed to be portrayed on the Gundestrup cauldron, a silver vessel that was found in a small peat bog at Gundestrup in Jutland, Denmark, and this was dating back to the 1st century. Wiccans generally, as well as some other neo-pagans, see the universe as having male and female energies. Cernunnos and another deity known as the goddess are seen as equal and opposite in gender polarity. However, of course, in some of the newer traditions of Wicca, especially those influenced by feminist ideology, there is a lot more emphasis on the goddess, and because of that, less is known about Cernunnos, so he is less developed in both knowledge and practice. In Wicca, the cycle of the seasons is celebrated during 8 Sabbats, called the Wheel of the Year. The seasonal cycle follows the relationship between Cernunnos and the goddess. Just like we've discussed before, this is a personified story to explain the cycle of the seasons. Cernunnos is born in winter, he then impregnates the goddess, and then he dies in the autumn and winter months, along with all of the vegetation and land that he is the lord of. And then he is reborn by the very same goddess that he impregnated. So he is his own dad. However, this relationship is a relatively new neo-pagan concept, and there is no scholarly evidence to indicate that ancient peoples might have celebrated this marriage of Cernunnos and a mother goddess. Which brings us to another major problem when it comes to Celtic folklore and the Celtic gods. A lot of modern stuff gets mixed in with the ancient. We try our hardest to focus on old texts, the actual words of the ancient peoples who worshipped these gods, so we can try to be as accurate as possible in these videos. The problem with this is the Celts were not very good at writing things down, and any form of writing that wasn't literally carved in stone didn't really stand the test of time and eventually completely decomposed. Which is why so much of the Celts' ancient worship remains a complete mystery that we only have bits and pieces of. As a result of this, a lot of the stories, ceremonies, methods of worship, and texts are all, putting it very bluntly, completely made up by neo-witch crystal humpers on Tumblr. Tumblr witches have done a huge amount of damage to the Celtic mythos because the stuff that they just make up gets accepted as fact. Now, I'm not shitting on Wiccanism or neo-paganism as a whole, at least not the ones that actually try to stay true to the source material, but so much stuff about the Celtic gods and the Celtic religion is all just modern inventions by internet witches, which makes research into these videos really hard. Okay, hashtag not all and all that, but for a bunch of people who apparently care about people's cultures, can you please stop fucking mine up? But anyway, let's get back to the story. Christians obviously very strongly opposed Cernunnos, partly because of his powerful pagan influence, but mostly because of his similarity to the appearance of Baphomet. Not just because of his horns, but also because he was occasionally depicted with a very, very large erect penis. Well, he was a fertility god. Also, Cernunnos has often been misinterpreted by fundamentalists as a symbol of Satan, and they would call the pagan followers of Cernunnos devil worshippers, when no, they weren't. It was a completely different god. And this wasn't too far into the past either, because during the satanic panic of the 80s and 90s, Cernunnos was very often compared to images of Satan by Christians who were concerned about the rise of neo-pagan movements. Christians also might have something to do with all of the lost knowledge of Cernunnos, because they were very well known to destroy anything and everything that might have been seen as sinful. So, since they thought that Cernunnos was a depiction of the devil, that could possibly explain why so much information about him has been lost to history. Cernunnos is thought to have the power to tame wild animals, including natural enemies, so that they can coexist peacefully and keep the balance within the ecosystem. He is also the protector of animals and hunters, which is a touch contradictory. And some people in the past would provide a ritual sacrifice to Cernunnos in order to appease him so he would grant them luck during their hunt. But they had to follow a certain specific set of rules in order to not draw his wrath. However, as for what those rules were, we don't know. Another one of the many things lost to history. But it is very common in many forms of paganism to give something in order to receive something, like we've discussed in our previous videos. There are no records of his worshippers from the past, since most of the knowledge was passed down via word of mouth and culture. And, as we've discussed, the Celts didn't write anything down, which is what makes research in these videos a little bit frustrating, but mostly quite sad, since we will never get to know the truth. And we know that Cernunnos was very important. There have been depictions, relics, and even statues made in his image, showing that he clearly was very important to ancient cultures. But as for his story, his background, how people worshipped him, or any other key information, a lot of that has sadly been lost to time.
It's Count Dankula on YouTube. Everybody subscribe.